When the diver finally reached the wreck, his flashlight passed over something that shouldn't have still been there after 3 centuries underwater. Most lost treasure stays lost because nobody looks hard enough. This kind stays lost because everyone has looked, repeatedly, expensively, and occasionally fatally, and it still hasn't turned up. That is only one of 6 treasures that vanished from history and are still, technically, out there. A quick note before we start. Treasure stories attract exaggeration the way shipwrecks attract barnacles. Where estimated values or exact locations are disputed, I'll say so. The documented cases already sound made up without help. Number 6. The Amber Room. In the 18th century, Prussian King Frederick William I gifted an entire room paneled in carved amber, gold leaf, and mirrors to Russian Tsar Peter the Great, who installed it in a palace outside St. Petersburg. Contemporaries described it as one of the most extravagant interiors ever built, valued today at estimates running into the hundreds of millions of dollars. In 1941, German forces invading the Soviet Union dismantled the room panel by panel and shipped it to Königsberg Castle for display. It was last documented there in 1944. As Soviet forces advanced the following year, the castle was bombed and later demolished, and the Amber Room's trail simply stops. Some historians believe it was destroyed in the fire. Others believe it was hidden in a mine shaft or bunker before the city fell, and multiple expeditions have searched suspected locations across Germany and the former Kaliningrad region ever since, occasionally with heavy machinery and considerable optimism. Russia eventually built a full reconstruction, completed in 2003, using historical photographs and surviving fragments as a guide. The reconstruction cost over $11 million and took artisans more than 2 decades. The original amber, if it still exists, remains missing. Turns out the safest place to hide a national treasure is inside a building people are actively trying to bomb. Number 5. The Lost Dutchman's Mine. Somewhere in Arizona's Superstition Mountains, according to persistent legend, lies a gold mine so rich that its 19th century owner, a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz, supposedly never needed to work again after finding it. Waltz reportedly kept the mine's location secret his entire life, sharing only vague clues on his deathbed in 1891 involving landmarks that may or may not still exist in a mountain range that has since been extensively mapped, mined, and hiked by people with metal detectors and considerably more free time than judgment. No verified gold deposit matching the legend has ever been found, and geologists remain skeptical the region even contains gold in commercial quantities. That skepticism has not slowed the search. Dozens of treasure hunters have died looking for the mine over the past century, from falls, exposure, and in at least one well-documented case, being shot, likely by another treasure hunter guarding a claim to nothing. The Superstition Mountains are now littered with expeditions equipped with modern GPS, ground-penetrating radar, and considerably worse outcomes than the terrain deserves. The mine may never have existed at all. That has not stopped anyone from looking, which says less about the gold and more about people. Number 4. The Treasure of Yamashita. During the final months of World War II, Japanese General Tomoyuki Yamashita commanded occupying forces in the Philippines. Persistent post-war legend claims Japanese forces looted vast quantities of gold, gems, and art from across occupied Southeast Asia and buried it in hundreds of secret locations throughout the Philippine Islands before the war's end, intended for later recovery that never happened once Japan surrendered. The scale involved in various accounts ranges from implausible to nearly impossible to verify, and most professional historians treat the legend with significant skepticism, since no credible primary documentation of such an operation has ever surfaced. That has not stopped decades of treasure hunting across the Philippines, including a widely publicized 1970s search by a Filipino treasure hunter who claimed to have recovered a golden Buddha statue, a claim that became entangled in lengthy legal disputes and was never independently verified. Filipino law technically requires government permits for treasure hunting on the theory that any recovered items belong partially to the state, which has not discouraged an entire cottage industry of hopeful diggers working with old maps of dubious provenance. Whether any of it was ever real remains genuinely unresolved. What is real is the number of people who have spent their savings digging holes based on a rumor from 1945. Number 3. The Faberge Imperial Eggs. Between 1885 and 1917, the House of Faberge created a series of extraordinarily elaborate jeweled eggs for the Russian imperial family, 50 in total, each containing an intricate hidden surprise inside, from miniature mechanical trains to tiny portraits. Following the Russian Revolution in 1917, the imperial collection was seized by the Bolshevik government, and many eggs were later sold off by Soviet authorities in the 1930s to raise foreign currency, often for a fraction of their eventual value. Most of the 50 eggs have since been tracked down in museums and private collections, some resurfacing decades later in unlikely places, including one famously identified in 2014 after a scrap metal dealer nearly melted it down for the gold, having purchased it at a flea market for a modest sum without recognizing what he had. 8 of the original imperial eggs, however, remain completely unaccounted for, their current locations and even continued existence unknown. Experts believe some may have been destroyed during the chaos of the revolution and subsequent decades. Others may sit quietly in private collections, their owners entirely unaware of what they actually possess. Somewhere, there is a real possibility that one of the most valuable objects ever crafted is currently functioning as a paperweight. Number 2. The Ark of the Covenant. According to Hebrew scripture, the Ark was a gold-covered chest containing the tablets of the Ten Commandments, constructed under Moses' direction and later housed in Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. Its disappearance from the historical and archaeological record occurred sometime around the Babylonian destruction of the temple in 586 BC, and no confirmed trace of it has surfaced since, despite it being arguably the most famous missing object in religious history. Theories about its fate range widely. Some scholars believe it was destroyed or looted during the Babylonian conquest and simply lost to history like countless other temple treasures. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church maintains a long-standing tradition that the Ark was secretly brought to Aksum in ancient Ethiopia, where it remains today in a guarded chapel that no one except a single appointed guardian monk is permitted to view, a claim archaeologists have been unable to verify or disprove given the total lack of access. Other theories place it in tunnels beneath Jerusalem's Temple Mount, a location far too politically and religiously sensitive to excavate. Thousands of years of searching, several major religious traditions, and not one confirmed sighting since ancient Babylon marched off with the rest of the temple's contents. Number 1. The loot of the SS Central America. In September 1857, the steamship SS Central America sank during a hurricane off the coast of the Carolinas, while carrying passengers and an enormous cargo of California Gold Rush bullion, an estimated several tons of gold coins and bars bound for East Coast banks. The ship's loss triggered a financial panic that contributed to the economic crisis of 1857, since so much gold vanished from circulation at once. The wreck sat undisturbed on the ocean floor at a depth of roughly 7,200 feet for more than a century, considered essentially unreachable with available technology. In 1988, a salvage team using early deep-sea robotic technology finally located and began recovering gold from the wreck, a discovery valued at the time in the hundreds of millions of dollars, which promptly triggered a decade of lawsuits between the salvage company, insurance underwriters who had paid out claims on the original loss in 1857, and various investors, all arguing over who legally owned gold that had been sitting on the seafloor since before the American Civil War. Recovery efforts have continued intermittently since, and historians estimate a significant portion of the original cargo likely remains uncollected, either buried in silt or scattered across the wrecked debris field by ocean currents over 16 decades. Somewhere off the Carolina coast, there is still gold rush treasure sitting in the dark, technically found, legally disputed, and only partially recovered. That is the strange thing about lost treasure. It is rarely lost the way a set of keys is lost, quietly and permanently. It tends to leave behind just enough evidence, documentation, or legend to make the search feel winnable, which is exactly what keeps people looking decades or centuries later. 6 treasures, still out there in some form, and apparently no shortage of people willing to spend a fortune trying to find one. History still has secrets. Some are buried beneath mountains, some rest at the bottom of the sea, and some may never be found. If you enjoyed this journey into history's greatest mysteries, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more stories every week.